All rise to the pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilman Alvarez.
Here.
Councilman Larka.
Here.
Councilman Lord.
Here.
Councilman O'Connor.
Here.
Supervisor Hay.
Here. Notation exits in the front and the rear. An electronic device, please put it on vibrate. We want to note the passing of Lois Sotelo, a former supervisor of the town of Southeast. This meeting will be held in her honor this evening, and we'll close the meeting in her honor with a reading of a proclamation as well. I make a motion to go into the work session.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
First item on the agenda, discussion Pugsley Road Sports Complex.
Good evening. My name is Richard O'Rourke. I'm with the law firm of Keenan Bean, PC, and we have offices in White Plains, and Fishkill, New York City. And here tonight with me is Kathleen Gallagher, who's a registered landscape architect from the engineering and planning firm Insight Engineering. We have Walt Hauser, who is with the KGD Architects in Mount Kisco, have been working on this project as well. And also sitting next to Walt is Jack Briganti, one of the owners of the property on Star Ridge Road. So I know that the town board has received a packet of information from me, which I hope, explains precisely what we're offering and what we're trying to suggest as we think a win-win for both the town as well as for the residents, in the sense that it actually ends up having an increase in acreage of open space within the town of Southeast. If I may, I just want to briefly explain the background on how all of this came about. Jack Briganti, who of course is here tonight, Dan Gray, they own a property up on Star Ridge Road, and that includes a home that's located at 273 Star Ridge Road. Some of you remember Mr. and Mrs. Fitchin, Paul and Eleanor. The house at 273 is the house immediately to the south of the stately stone house that belonged to the Fitchins for many, many years, and actually to Mrs. Fitchin's father, who was a famous sculptor.
Is that the one called Skywatch?
Sorry?
Is that Skywatch?
No, that's not Skywatch.
Okay, there's Skywatch, and then
There's-
the
there's-
next parcel is 273?
And then, yes, there's a house, a relatively new house that's set back from the road.
Right.
It's about, I think, about 10 or 12,000 square feet. I believe is the size of the house. It's a very large home. Anyway, long story short, here's the property. If I may, just show you on this diagram, the house that I'm discussing with you, and that's owned by the owner of the property, is that lot that's shown there. And then below that, you will note that there's a very large parcel of property, which is approximately 94.9 acres of property. All of this property is presently zoned R Residential 160. And so the planning staff was kind enough to meet with the principals some time ago in one of the Thursday morning meetings, and there was a discussion about a proposal that the owners had to develop a recreational facility, principally with several baseball diamonds. The property was here, and it was proposed. Before we went into the meeting, I said, you know, I think that we may have issues because obviously this is a predominantly residential area, and notwithstanding the fact that permitted by special permit is recreational use on this property. After a discussion at the town planning staff meeting, there seemed to be a receptivity to the addition of recreational activities for youth in the town, but clearly not at this location. And the reason, of course, is that, as you all know, that area is predominantly residential. There are two agricultural uses that are nearby. There's a horse farm as well as a rider farm. So with that, what we did was we discussed And the thought came up, well, where else would there possibly be a good location for this kind of recreational activity? And what we looked at were areas where the underlying zoning allowed recreation as a principal permitted use, which means a permitted use as of right, of course subject to site plan approval and everything else, but nevertheless, property that would be not in the middle of a residential area or agricultural area, but an area that perhaps recreation would be looked upon in a more favorable light. And so with that, there was discussion regarding property owned by the town on Pugsley Road, which borders I-84 and goes up to Pugsley Road, stretching from 312 all the way up to the town of Patterson town line. Maybe you could just show that one. Thank you, Kathleen. And so we took a look at this property, recognizing that it was designated open space. We took a look at the fact that with regard to its acquisition, there was discussion at the time for this being an appropriate site for both active and passive recreation. And we realized that, quite frankly, there were areas of developability for active recreation that would be possible, and at the same time provide for an opportunity to maintain and sustain a large portion of the area as open space. And so we came up with this concept of property whereby there would be 94.9 acres from the Star Ridge property that we could convey to the town, which would become permanent open space, in exchange for there being a portion of the property now owned by the town that could be used and developed for baseball, recreational facility. So with that, we did some more discussions, some preliminary analysis, and we thought that this was something that was very worth exploring with the town board, because in essence, now you have one area that's designated open space. At the conclusion of this, you'll have two areas, one being up in Star Ridge, which is already designated a historic road. There are other open space pieces that are nearby, and at the same time, it actually provides for a recreational use here that's a public and private partnership, something specifically contemplated in the town's comprehensive plan. And so that's our proposal. In essence, what it boils down to is this. We are, and there's a comparative analysis chart that was provided to the town board as part of the submission. And you will note that what's being proposed is that on the Star Ridge Road site, there would be a conveyance of 94.88 acres to the town to be used as permanent open space. There is direct access to the property from Star Ridge Road, and in return, the thought process is that the Pugsley Road site, that 81.72 acres be conveyed to Mr. Briganti and the owners, and conceptually, it seems to work for us. Now, what that then means is, with respect to the property located on Pugsley Road, there would remain 71.7 acres of land to continue as permanent, dedicated open space. And what we did was we set aside the area that we believe is protected by ridgeline, sensitive areas, that one of the objectives of open space is to provide for that, as well as the sensitive areas to the south, closest to 312, where there's very extensive wetlands. Now, I think I laid it out. The issue is, obviously, because what we're dealing with is open space land owned by the town, there is a requirement that For this to occur, there needs to be permission from the New York State Legislature, the Assembly and Senate. We've had some preliminary discussions with representatives. They seemed very, very positive insofar as recognizing that there is a net increase in open space, and also that it provides for recreational opportunities on this property. And so what's necessary is for the town board to consider it, for the town board to analyze it, and for it to then determine whether in fact it wants to authorize member item legislation to be presented by our respective state representatives in Albany, so as then to permit what's known as the alienation, the sale or exchange of publicly held property to a third party. And then thereafter, as part of that, if that authorization occurs, then and then the town would proceed to, and we would proceed to an exchange of property. There is, I have an appraisal that's being done by McGrath Associates, a very reputable firm, did all the appraisals for the city of New York in terms of its acquisition for watershed property. And I'm expecting to have that within the next 5 or 6 days. And so that, as soon as we have it, then we'll submit that as well to the town. And so that's sort of an overview of what's being proposed.
Now, just so the public knows, this is not a public hearing this evening, but the public can come up and ask questions of both the board and Mr. O'Rourke. There will be a public hearing next Thursday night at 7 o'clock. It's a special meeting for that. The reason behind this, the legislative session has to have all the documentation for the legislative session for 2020 to be in by no later than the end of February. So this is our last meeting, would not make it. Again, we don't want to have a public hearing the same night, so we're having a public hearing special next Thursday night, and then the following week we come to the board. Just to give you some background, this property, UGAA, was the name way back when. I was on the Putnam County Legislature when County Executive Robert Bondi wanted to purchase it. At the time, the legislature with Mr. Bondi bought the Mayapack Golf Course at the time. Still there, still being active with the county. They also bought Tilly Foster Farm, and we thought a tremendous amount of money was being spent from the EOH monies that had been obtained from New York City. And this parcel in particular was of interest to Mr. Bondi, but the legislature said no. We didn't want to purchase it because there was many other things to do with the money. We had the septic maintenance repair program. So that parcel, when the town bought it, was $2.2 million. After it was purchased for $2.2 million, it was an intent, and it was carved out 10 acres, 5 acres on each parcel. There's 2 parcels, one to the left, one to the right. And could that young lady identify the parcel that was cut out, the 10 acres?
For the county?
From the county.
Yes.
Now, that 10 acres there was cut out for the county, and that's where the Humane Society was destined to be initially. That was the plan and why that 10 acres was cut out. Since then, it did not go to the Humane Society, and it's still owned by the county. So that is now county-owned. It's a town road going to that portion, and it was 2.2. The 10 acres, the county paid back the town from the monies that were used. It was a bond issued by the town, not a bond. They were authorized to borrow up to $5 million. Personally, I was not in favor of it. You don't give government $5 million without identifying what's going to be spent on. So when they got the $5 million, we had no idea what they were buying. That is the first and only piece that they bought, and they bought it for $2.2 million. So out of that, we got back $200,000 and $2 million. And each year for the next 20 years, we're about 10 years into it, the town pays $166,000 to not maintain, but that's what the cost of the bond is to the taxpayers of the town, which is about 2% of a tax cap. So that's where the money came from. Okay, town board members. Questions?
I don't have anything right now.
Yeah, I want to look at it. I did walk the site this morning. It's the Star Ridge Road site, and it's it's pretty wet there, but it was also a very wet day. And and looking at the comparative site analysis, the usable area at Star Ridge is 51.9 acres, including setbacks, and the usable area at Pugsley Road is 62.6. So even though Pugsley Road is less, you're taking less, you're getting more usable land. That was one observation I had. Also, well, I have a few questions that I'll probably ask at the public hearing, but that was just my first quick look at it. And I've also been at the site on Pugsley Road. It's town property, and although it's not parkland, or it's not, I guess we don't.
It's open.
It's open space, so
We use it as parkland supposedly.
Good, well, I rode my mountain bike there a few weeks ago, and it's some beautiful spots. I mean, once you get in from the brambles, it's really pretty nice, and but it's also quite a bit of wetlands, and there are some steep slopes there. I'm gonna have more questions at the public hearing, but those are just my observations. Both sites are beautiful open space areas. I'm not sure how much, what would need to be done to work with the Star Ridge Road site as far as getting through all the wetlands. And I think one of the, well, I'll have more at the public hearing, but thank you. Thanks for letting me walk the site this morning.
You know, if I may, as far as the usable area, obviously that's something that's of importance, but I know from what I understand the legislature looks at it in terms of total gross area, and that in fact this ends up being an increase in acreage. Also, the preliminary information I received from the appraiser is that the fair market value of the property on Star Ridge far exceeds what Pugsley is. So the net gain to the town, not only is it in terms of a growth in terms of acreage of open space, but also in terms of fair market value, the property that the town is getting on Star Ridge is far more valuable than the property that is located on Pugsley. The other issue related to that is that if anybody has ever driven up Star Ridge at sunset, I mean, it is an absolutely spectacular piece of property. So for people to walk and to enjoy passive recreation, I would suggest that that property on Star Ridge is probably far more valuable in a qualitative way as opposed to being right next to I-84 with trucks blowing by. So, but anyway, so.
Rick, I just have
I'm sorry,
Go.
just a question, because John made the comment, so I'm not sure if I'm missing something. I think if we swap the properties, there's nothing at the moment that I know of to be built on Star Ridge Road. I mean, is there plans that I'm unaware of? I mean, it would still remain open space to me.
Well, we're swapping open space.
Right,
For
but John
open
said,
space.
you know, that, I guess, you know,
No,
would
I'm
be
just-
able
I'm
to
just looking
develop
at-
anything, so I was.
No, I'm not looking for I'm just, they submitted one of the
Yeah,
attachments, a
no.
comparative site analysis, and I just was comparing the lines. And so one had more than the other. That's
Oh,
all.
okay, yeah,
That
but
was
for
all.
right now, if we swap it, it's just gonna stay open space. I mean, there's no plans right now for us to develop it, so.
No,
We
our
couldn't- we
area
can't
would
develop
never.
it. If it's open space, I don't think we can ever develop it.
Yeah, but it was just the comment you made, I wasn't sure, I was confused. It sounded like you knew something I didn't know that we were gonna.
No.
Okay, all right, thanks.
No.
It's open space. The town's portion will always remain open
Yeah,
space.
okay.
Hey, Rick, I have two quick questions. Are you proposing any access to this land on Star Ridge? Because I think it's, once the home is occupied, I don't know that there's any access.
Yes, there is.
Why don't you
As a
flip the
matter of
map-
fact,
why don't
yeah,
you
we'll
flip
flip
the
the map up. Yeah, the house, obviously, that house is going to be on a lot
Yeah.
and sold privately. That's this here.
Right.
You'll note that, however, the massive frontage on this property is right here.
That's all right.
Yeah,
That's
so
all access, that's direct access to the Star Ridge piece.
I guess there's just no way to access it now. There's nowhere to
Yeah.
park a car or anything like that.
No, you
Okay, I'm just asking if
you
there's
walk in,
anything
like
proposed.
John did, except you walk through the driveway, I think, where the house is. But to answer your question,
I came out through there. I think that was Frank's Tree Farm at one time. That was one of the signs I saw over there.
it was what?
Frank's Tree Farm. I saw a sign in the woods there.
I have no idea.
And it
Were
was-
were there any trees growing?
It was full of bramble. and-
Oh,
and
okay. No, but the frontage has got to be, I know, it's on a scale, what would you say that frontage is where we would provide for the town?
It's not a main road.
So it's about 1,000 feet of frontage. So theoretically, if the town were to take title to that, people would have direct access. And just like with the Fitchin Reserve, you could have a little parking area. Somebody could put a house, just like the Fitchin area not a house, but I mean a small parking area.
The other question I have is for the land on Pugsley. Is it limited to what it could be used for? I know you guys are using it for ball fields or something potentially. Is there limits on what the use of that land is once the swap takes place?
Yes, there is a limitation. In fact, I said to Will a letter of intent, which would be for what our intention is here. And what the intention is for Pugsley Road is for that property to develop as a recreation complex with baseball diamonds. And as far as the uses that are permitted on that property, I know recreation is a principal permitted use. I think a cemetery. I don't have it right in front of me, but
Okay.
there's not a kennel. You know.
Well, that's why the Humane Society was destined to be out there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I think you said craft work.
By the way, you know, that property now, if you've been back there, what the county has, it's
Yeah, don't say it on TV.
here, if I may, just to answer your question, Eric.
Ma'am, could you,
Okay, the other uses for the Pugsley Road property are nursery,
yeah.
office, restaurant, and kennel. So,
Okay.
Okay,
Thank
ma'am,
you.
come up to the mic and just state your name for the record, please, and with your question.
Hi, Alicia Russo, and I was just trying to figure out what this new corner was there on the map, because I was trying to read it there. Is that the Patterson Town line?
Yes.
Yes.
It should be.
So is that
Yes.
house, my house there?
I think that's your house.
Right, so I'm proposing to go right up against it. Has there been any discussion with Patterson?
This is the first time we've had any
No.
public discussion of this.
Okay. Just was, because I just saw my little house and I was
I know, I
wondering.
understand.
And it is beautiful out there because there's tons of animals that live. Bears.
Good evening. My name is Ann Finizzi. I'm a resident of the town of Southeast. And I just want to start by saying that I'm very disappointed in the amount of time, transparency that has been not given to this particular development. Were it not for the fact that I usually peruse the Putnam Press for public notices, I would never have known that this particular project was underway. It's a disgrace and it's shameful. After you, Mr. Hay, always said you would have utmost transparency.
Well, how
And
could
to
you
have,
say- how could-
excuse
let
me,
No, you just
excuse
brought my
me.
name up. Let me respond to you.
Excuse
How
me.
could you say it's not transparent?
It is not.
This came to the town board, we posted it in the newspaper, we set a public hearing, and you're here this evening. And if you signed up with the town...
Excuse me, I have the posting.
Okay.
I have the posting here, and this is the first posting that I have seen of the public hearing that was supposed to be held 1 week from now.
Yes.
1 week from now. There was a discussion at the planning board of this particular project, not 1 week ago, on the 27th. And there was another discussion of this project on the 13th. And it concerned subdivision on Star Ridge, which completely misled me, because I thought, here goes another building, another house on Star Ridge.
It wasn't
Because-
misleading, that was the plan and process.
Excuse me, it was very misleading, because what it did not indicate to me, nor point out to me, that this developer had other plans, and you could not obtain the amount of material, and I want to thank Michelle for providing me with that material. You could not have developed that kind of material in exactly 2 weeks.
Oh, yes,
You already have a home rule resolution in there, a home rule resolution. What is the use of having a public hearing when you already have a home rule resolution ready to
Be turned
go?
down. You don't know it's going to pass yet.
No, I don't know whether or not it's not going to
It has
pass.
to come to a vote by this board.
Yes, I understand, and of course, it's being done within 1 week.
And I explain why.
With 1 week, what is the urgency? What is
The urgency, the state legislature meets once a year, basically.
But
for a
that's all right, it
timeframe.
could wait another year, because this,
you might
this
think it could wait
needs,
another year, but it doesn't last.
this needs discussion. This needs wide discussion.
We're discussing this evening.
I was at that 273 Star Ridge, and all there is a lawn, and that's about as much as I can say. There is a huge entranceway before you get to that house. That land would never pass muster on an open space committee by residents. I have over here the criteria that we had as an open space committee, the first open space committee, and I want to be very sure to say that. And I want to go through each and every single one of the criteria in order to purchase open space. And then I want you to tell me that that property of 94 acres is going to meet each one of this criteria. It is not. To transfer open space is not merely to transfer land. You are transferring
Ma'am,
environmental,
speak into the
cultural,
microphone,
so
please,
forth.
so everyone can hear you.
If you don't hear me, that, I want to go over that criteria. That criteria was formed by an open space committee. In 2005, this town was a star. It was a star because we were able, as residents, to say, we value our natural environment. So we were willing to accept tax increase in order to maintain the rural character of our town, to protect Tilly Foster, to stop the development that was supposed to be on Pugsley Road. That's why the 166 acres were purchased, because UJA told the Trust for Public Land, either you do something with this property, or else we have a private developer that is ready to come in. And at that time, Tilly Foster had just been purchased. We wanted, at least County Executive Bondi wanted to protect. This land, 166 acres, was going to be part of a grand vision. It was going to connect, and these are contiguous, by the way, these are contiguous property. You do not have open space if you fragment up open space. When you cut up open space, then you take away the value of that open space for habitat for wildlife, for protection of wetlands, for protection of the reservoir. These 166 acres are contiguous. It is contiguous to another piece of property, 80 acres that the county has, that borders Patterson. You should be very careful of this, very careful, because I went down your street, I went down Star Ridge the other day, and I was just able to get information, which I have, and from Attorney O'Rourke. He wrote a letter. Oh, we're not segmented. No. Oh, the developer, well, he really doesn't know what he wants to do with it. You know what? I don't want to use cuss words, but a cuss word is really appropriate here. Now, let me go over the criteria. Does that property, and we made it up, natural features suited to passive recreation, natural features adjacent to natural resources or acting as a buffer, parcels contiguous to existing larger open spaces. And at that time, Tilly Foster was only 2 years old. This is dated, this is my copy, 2007 with my signature. And there are signatures of other members of the board also. Next one, historical significance. We did put down potential for active recreation, and we had large discussion on that. Wildlife or natural habitat, interesting picturesque views, water protection, cost sharing. Could it be commercial property? What is the amount of the commercial property? So we deliberated long and hard. We wanted to remain faithful to the obligation that the residents had given us as members of the Open Space Committee to duly select land that would truly be environmentally sensitive or culturally or historic. So we made up this criteria. I dare you to go to Star Ridge and point out all of these criteria if they meet. The other thing is, the attorney says we want to establish baseball. Well, that's nice. Not a mile away, Harold Lepler donated 15 acres for that purpose off Zell Road as part of the terrorist project. He had Ace Indigo, the donation of the land, and he had senior housing. So to say that we need more baseball, that would be, by the way, almost at the edge of possibly semi-trailer trucks from logistics. What are we going to have? Parents coming with cars, buses up Pugsley Road, vying for space with what? Cities coming out of the warehouses? Or wait a minute, better still. We can have them coming down Fair Street and maybe coming down Fair's Corners, right? Down with Patterson. There are a lot of things that are wrong with this, an awful lot. And we should have more time. Never mind the urgency. What urgency is it? As a matter of fact, I found in the Senate, Senator Jose Serrano. He, every year for 2013, and you can see it if you go to the Senate, 2013, 2014, 2015, 2016, he proposed a bill. And there is recognition in the legislature that this is a very easy way of removing open space. We'll just alienate it, and then we'll use it for whatever purpose we want to use it. Jose Serrano and the rest of his senators, because it didn't pass, unfortunately, but they had a standard. And the standard was compelling public need. I want to know, what is the compelling public need to fragment 166 acres, to put baseball? You don't have. I tell you what a compelling public need is. We need more open space. We need to use the rest of that $5 million. We need to use it. I know you're hostile to it. I know you're hostile to it.
Ma'am, I'm not hostile to it.
Yes, you are.
Look, you got $5 million. You spent $2
I
million.
wish I had
Wait,
$5 million.
Time out. You spent $2.2 million.
That's right.
That property was, do you know what the use of that property was intended to be before the county went in and bought it? Do you have any idea? You remember?
What?
Tell us. No, come on. Tell us. What was it?
No.
Tell us. You just said
I'm
it was.
going to tell you what you asked me a question,
Go
I'm
ahead.
going to
Well,
answer
answer
it.
it.
What I know is the following, is that UJA formerly had that property.
Right?
That property then was going to be sold.
Right? To whom?
There was going to be a development there.
For the purpose
Trust for Public Land had a window in which to either purchase a property or to have the 166 acres go. Schulweiss had plans to put 1 million square foot retail there.
That's not what I heard.
No, but wait a minute. I'm going a little bit before. Now I'm going to the UJA and the Trust for Public Land. Trust for Public Land came and said, look, we are at a deadline here. It was a March, I believe, at the end of March. Either we show that we are going to take the land. Now, there was discussion about this land. I'm not going to stand here and say, oh, we didn't discuss it. We were a committee, so we had varying opinions about the land, okay? Yes, it was near a highway, and I said, so what? Does that remove it being environmentally sensitive, that we shouldn't protect the wetlands, or that we shouldn't provide wildlife habitat? I mean, that was my position. Some people said it's too near the highway, okay? And we should, well, maybe what should happen is the following. Why are we keeping any of it open space? Just develop all of it. Just develop it. Just cut down all the trees and say, come on in, and you can have all of it. But that's not what the people of Southeast came here. They wanted a wonderful town, a rural town. People go up and down Pugsley Road. I didn't have a doggy, but people can hike. They can bike. There's a whole bunch of things that could have been done. And you know what? I feel it's my fault. I really feel it's my fault, because I should have been more assertive and more aggressive in putting out and saying, town officials, you need to delegate some money so that we can improve the land, so that we can truly make it the wonderful area that it can be. Star Ridge Road, I had to go a few miles to get to that property. I want to know how many people are going to be riding up Star Ridge Road. Oh, only the people that are surrounding it. The people maybe on Cobb Road. All right? This area over here, we have the money. We can make it truly a lovely nature habitat. In order to form a buffer, already we have open space promised to us, even from the logistics center. This property should remain contiguous, 166 acres. And not fall for the sham. This is a sham. You have 100 acres. 100 acres in this town that has been dedicated to ball fields. And you only have 3,700 school children.
This isn't specific to the town building ball fields.
We're
No,
not-
no, I understand.
Yeah,
No,
the
but you
town
have
has nothing to
look-
do with the ball fields are for, that we have are for different use. Okay.
This is the total. This is the total, okay? You don't need more ball fields. There is the possibility on this land for more nature studies. Here we have Cornell trying to look for places and doing and so forth and so on. You have the capability of truly connecting it to Tilly Foster, of making it truly a gem of this county. Ball fields, we don't need ball fields. We need people who understand what open space is. And open space, Mr. O'Rourke, is not merely just changing
Yes,
one piece of
Ms.
property
Finizzi,
for another.
Ms. Finizzi, address the board, please. I know.
Oh, never mind, you can
Just-
call it a diatribe.
Ms.
But I think what
Finizzi,
you're proposing
Ms.
is very
Finizzi,
dangerous.
you're out of order.
Well,
You
okay,
will
I know
address
it's out
the
of order.
board, please. Now, let me go back and tell you, my understanding of that property, it was supposed to be 5 horse farms, and the price tag was around $1 million.
I'm sorry, 5 what?
That property
Right.
originally had a buyer, okay? It was for $1 million, just under $1 million for 5 horse farms, and that's when the county got involved. And somehow the price tag got up to around $2 million for 5 horse farms. And I'm gonna tell you right now, when they bought Tilly Foster, there was a concern that it was gonna be developed into multiple townhouses and condominiums, of which you live in. I mean, you live in an area that cut down a whole bunch of trees. There's cats and dogs and bog turtles and everything else. Now, that was built, how many units are over there in Hunter's Glen?
About 400,
400.
about.
And 400. Now, I wish you were here then, because guess what? You could be given the same thing where you live. You cut down all those trees, everything you're saying about this property, you have already done. But that's okay.
No,
I don't agree. I don't agree. I've lived here longer than you. I don't
respectfully,
agree. No.
respectfully, okay? That argument has been used over and over and over again.
But it doesn't make sense when it comes to this side.
Because someone lives in a certain area, or you live in a certain area, does not preclude the fact that we need to preserve the open space
We are
that we
preserving.
have.
It is
If
being
we
preserved.
If the mistakes were made in the past, we don't have to make them again.
Well, anyway, it was supposed to be 5 horse farms. That, to me, 5 horse farms on that property would be preserving open space in my mind. Maybe not yours.
She has questions to ask of the applicant. She should ask the question.
Okay.
You shouldn't get into this back and forth.
Okay. Well, she's gonna come back and do it again. Okay. Okay. Council has advised me, ask your questions, not lectures.
Well, you know what? I've made a statement.
No, that was more than a statement.
Sweet. I made a statement. I really don't. What I question is the following. Okay, I'll question the following. How long has this proposal been known? It has to be.
Wait, which
It has to be a long time.
Which
You cannot develop a map.
Ms. Finizzi, which proposal are you speaking of?
This proposal.
Wait, there's a proposal. Star Ridge Road,
Yeah.
I got phone calls before I knew it even existed. I think it was down the planning board, and I had not heard of it. It was probably 2-3 months ago, maybe, I don't know. I don't know the time frame because I was unaware of it until I got a phone call. This came up probably within the past 30 to 40 days. Is that a good time frame? The swap, alienation?
Excuse me?
In 30 to 40 days, the consideration of alienation of the property came forward.
Then I would respectfully say that we need 30 or 40 days as residents of this community who put their money literally where their mouth was.
We all,
There is absolutely, you can see who is present at this particular meeting. And so I would say this, is that you wait the year, or you wait the 6 months, and get a resident consensus. What we did, or what we attempted to do, was to get a resident consensus, to be truly truly faithful to what we were obligated to do.
You never got a resident consensus, ever. And you show it to me in documents, because you're saying a lot of things tonight, so you provide to us. You show me a resident consensus that allowed you to buy that property for $2.2 million. No, I want the consensus, not the money. They gave you the money. Like I said, I did not support that because you don't give government $5 million. And you know, a lot of people didn't realize, they thought that was like free money. They didn't know we have to actually borrow the money and pay it back, which is $166,000 a year for the next 20 years for $2.2 million for a property that's probably not even worth $1 million today. Good investment.
We've already paid 10 years, right? So
Yes.
we've got 10 years left.
Yeah, but it's 20 years. 166 for another 10 more
For
years.
another 10 years.
Yep.
Okay.
Right.
But we've
Now,
already paid.
you know what the answer to that is?
What?
That residents have not come up and have not said, we want to take it back, or we want to have another vote, or we want to do anything like that.
We're not doing,
No,
we're not.
no, we're not. No resident has, to my knowledge, has come up and has said, we want to take back that $5 million. We want to do this, we want to do that. We, as the Open Space Committee, were given as representatives, and all the residents knew, this was a thoroughly transparent process.
And
So is
since
this-
this isn't a public hearing, I think you should propose questions, and we can discuss it during the public hearing.
No, but I wanted to bring these issues up, Mr. Larker, and I appreciate it, and I really, maybe I needed to bring these issues up at this particular time, because at the public hearing, it's not just simply saying, oh, well, we'll have a public hearing and we'll not vote. You're going to have a vote at that hearing.
And it goes up to the state, and they can deny it.
So how much time have you got to really examine and to really hear the different viewpoints? I have more to say about this, by the way, but I'm not. But I wanted to bring, excuse me, Mr. Stevens?
You'll have a chance to do that next Thursday.
No, it's not, yeah, a chance. There should, what I am saying, and you know what I'm saying, there should be many chances. This should be discussed and discussed with residents several times, and never mind deadlines, because the only person who is benefiting from a deadline is not the residents of this community, it is the developer.
I think you're going to find a lot of people that don't quite agree with that, especially a
Well,
lot of
they
these
may-
children
they
that
may-
live in this
that's-
town.
you know what?
We constantly get beat up that we don't have recreation, this and this, and that's exactly what's going to, the town is considering when it's doing it.
You know what?
What?
That's okay. That's okay. But residents should have that opportunity to stand there and say so.
Well, you just had your opportunity. Thank you.
May I just correct some misstatements?
Good.
All right, first of all, Mrs. Fitchett, excuse me.
Yeah, that's right.
Ms. Finizzi quoted to the board her sentiments in terms of what the sentiments were with respect to the Open Space Advisory Committee. And she read from a criteria, open space parcel evaluation grid, and she concluded that, of course, this property was not suitable for active recreation. I have what I received from town records, the Town of Southeast Open Space Advisory Committee. Attached, please find the evaluation grids completed by committee members for the UJA property located at tax map 45-1-10 and 11. Respectfully submitted for the record by Kerry Cunningham, Richard Honick, Ann Finizzi, Sherry Ingraham, Mildred Nugent, Jim DeBella. And one of the questions that was asked specifically, is there potential for active recreation with respect to this particular property that we're talking about, where we're looking for just a portion of it? By a vote of 4-2 of the advisory committee members, they determined that it was suitable for active recreation. I just want to make sure that the record is clear. There was no misleading that I made in terms of my statements. That was misleading, what was said by Mrs. Finizzi. The second thing that I think is very, very important for the board to realize is that if you take a look at your comprehensive plan, you will note that it talks about, quote, any potential development in the campus at Fields Corner area project, also known as Northeast Interstate Logistics along Pugsley Road, would be compatible with this vision of growth of the I-84 Route 312 interchange area as a node of commercial activity. We're not proposing commercial activity, we're proposing recreational activities. That's your master plan. This is your open space committee. All we're proposing is a net increase in open space for the town of Southeast in now 2 locations as opposed to 1. And you are getting a property who I will be determined to be fair market value in excess of what is being given to us in exchange, and you're putting a piece of that property on the tax rolls to offset that, was it, how much money do we pay a year?
166.
$166,000 for that property that lays fallow with nothing on it now other than tree stumps and debris that's located on that property. Enough said.
Yes.
This is not a public hearing, but the misstatements of fact have to stop.
Peter Bell. I have 2 questions. One is what they are proposing legal as far as the town is concerned, as far as open space. Can these 2 pieces be switched?
It's up to the state to determine that, and they'll say yes or no with the alienation.
Okay. If Mr. O'Rourke doesn't mind, I understand what Ms. Finizzi said about the ball fields up on Zimmer Road. I'm just curious if we could get a better explanation of what that recreation means. Does it mean a stadium? Does it mean just ball fields? Does it mean concession stands or something like that?
Can you answer that?
The process, as you well know, we can't propose, we don't own the property. We don't own the property. And so you cannot, there are so many steps that are involved in this. For example, first of all, and the first step is for the town board to consider a proposal for a swap of land. That's number 1. Number 2, you then might possibly, after a public hearing, after what you have to do by way of review, you may authorize that municipal home rule legislation be passed up to the New York State Legislature, and the New York State Legislature then has to allow for the transfer to occur. Then there may come a time when, if those 2 steps, which are, attenuated, take time, then we may be back with a proposal. You cannot possibly design and engineer and do a whole program on property you don't own, you don't know whether you're going to own, and then thereafter you're going to go for a site plan application that's going to go through an exhaustive environmental review process, no doubt a DEIS, FEIS finding statement. That's number 1 in terms of the approval process, the timeline. Nothing will come to fruition, even if everything went at the speed of sound, for at least 1.5 years to 2 years. And secondly, with respect to what's being proposed, this is not a stadium. These are, conceptually, what's proposed are baseball diamonds. There would be, we would hope that we would have room to do some kind of all-purpose field house that could be used for volleyball, basketball, indoor training, batting cages, things of that nature. Lastly, this is something that would be available not only to the community, not only to the high school, to the sports programs and everything else, but privately, and also an opportunity for tournaments for kids that are less than 12 years of age. In a nutshell. But the concept, for example, Mr. Hay, when I submitted this week, and by the way, this alienation plan was developed within the last 10 days. One of the things that we talked about was how about that piece on the back there, remaining parkland, where you're saying set aside. We're setting it aside because it's a ridgeline protection area. It makes sense for it to be sensitive. You said to me, well, how are we going to get access? And I said, with all due respect, you're going to have an easement. Of course we're going to give you an access, but I can't engineer this thing now. You've got to be out of your mind to do something like this before you don't even own the property. We're not even close. And we've already committed, we recognize that it would have to go through an environmental review process. So to answer the question, no, there's no intention of a stadium. We're not talking about a dome or anything like that. I don't know what else to tell you, but conceptually, you just can't plan something like this when you don't own it.
John?
No, but the vision for Pro Swing at Star Ridge Road was what you just said, diamonds and maybe a field house.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah,
so
that's it.
That's, I think, all what we.
But we're not talking about a stadium or indoor dome or
Cool.
anything like that.
How
That's
good. One question, how long was whatever that pro sport, how long was it in front of the planning board?
For
When
the
did they
final
make- when would they
subdivision
make their-
approval?
No, when did they make their first application for it?
Now that, that's that,
Star
I don't know.
Ridge.
2 months ago?
So it started 2 months ago at Star Ridge.
Yes,
And in
yeah,
the
it was on
past,
the
in
agenda.
the
It was-
past, I don't know, 3 weeks maybe,
Right,
it's the thought of an alienation.
yeah.
Okay, but the first step of anything moving forward, it has to go to Albany to at least get it going, and it may never go through.
Exactly.
Okay, yes, ma'am.
My name is Joy Sarro, I'm a resident in Brewster, and I just have a question. I read the Pro Swings EAF and addendum, and then I heard Mr. O'Rourke's presentation. So I'm a little confused as to what properties are going to be swapped, because from what I heard, the Star Ridge 79110 is going to be subdivided so that the owners, present owners, keep the residence and the pool and I guess some surrounding land. And then the balance of it is what's proposed to be swapped with
Yes.
the Pugsley property. But the application, the EAF also says that 45, 1, 10, and 11, and then their area summary refers to part of 45.15.3, I think it is, are the lands being swapped on Pugsley. But, you know, I'm confused now because then Mr. O'Rourke said that it's only going to be one of the lots and the town can retain the other lot, and then just now he said that, you know, of course, there would be an easement. I'm confused. What is the property that's going to be swapped? I mean, is the town comfortable in having Pro Swing retain their, you know, I guess 2 acres, because it's R2 zoning there, sell the, or R3? Oh, R4, so they're gonna retain 4 acres on that lot. The property is 102 point something acres. We're talking about a swap of only 94, so they're gonna retain the difference. They're gonna sell the property or keep the property, whatever they choose to do. The balance of the property is going to be the swap for the Pugsley property. I'm not against the swap, and I'm not against Pugsley Road being developed. I like all that. What I'm getting a little concerned with is identification of the properties, because the EAF says one thing, Mr. O'Rourke said another thing. I don't know, you know, exactly what those properties are. So that's one thing I'd like clarified. The other thing I'd like clarified is, you know, I'm a suspicious person by nature. So I see that another agenda item is amendment to local law 138. So right away that sends up flags that, you know, maybe we're not being very transparent, and maybe the Pro Swing is being disingenuous when it says it doesn't have plans for the Pugsley Road property. And I'm not against that either, because I would welcome that. But I think that we need clarification on the properties being transferred. I think that we really need to omit the word linkage from the home legislation request and the proposed town resolution, because that Star Ridge is in no way linked to any other open space. Linkage implies contiguity, and there is none. So let's be a little more clear about that, and, you know, their EAF addendum items kind of throw that out a couple of times. It shouldn't be repeated as a mistake in the town's request for the alienation and in the town's resolution. So that's another issue
Okay.
that, you know.
138 has absolutely nothing to do with this transaction.
The what?
Is it 138, the other item on the agenda, has nothing to do with this
Well,
proposal?
I beg to differ, because I think that 138 speaks directly to
Well, we're-
revision of certain,
We'll get to that, but
Codes, yeah.
but it has nothing to do with this.
yeah, but it does, because you know what? I really think that it ties in, because I know that Carmel is very intent on the distillery project, okay, which displaces the Paladin Center, okay? And, you know, I think that Putnam County is behind it. I think that, you know, everyone is on the bandwagon, and that's great, I'm okay with that. I advocate for it. However, I don't advocate for the fact that, you know, things are happening in a way that might not be as transparent as it could be.
Okay,
I think, you know, I do think they're related. I do think that the proposed amendment changes to local law 138 do absolutely relate to the land swap. I do.
Oh, it does, I can tell you now it does not.
All right,
But-
let me try to
okay.
clear this up, okay? First of all, I don't even know what amendment.
Don't worry
you-
about 138, it has nothing to do with you.
We have nothing to do with that,
No.
but I didn't even mention one tax lot block parcel, but I have Kathleen here, who knows all about that and will hopefully explain what the tax lot blocks are, so
Oh,
that.
I know the blocks. I know.
No, but you
what
said there's,
they're
you said there's
including.
confusion.
Right, that's what I'm confused about.
All right, that's what we're, hopefully we can clear that up.
Yeah, it's, yeah.
Hi, I'm Kathleen Gallagher with Insight Engineering, Surveying, and Landscape Architecture. I am going to flip this over for one moment. Your general concept of what is happening is correct. The Star Ridge Road property is currently under review of the planning board for a subdivision that is turning one lot into two lots. Those lots contain the house and the larger parcel. Those two parcels account for a total of 102 acres. The house parcel is proposed to be 7.8 acres, and the rest of the lot is 94.9 acres. The 94.9 acres is the proposed property that will be part of the alienation switch.
So there's going to be three parcels after this subdivision? Is that what
Two
you just?
parcels,
Two.
from one lot to two parcels.
Oh, okay. So one lot to two parcels, one parcel being the house?
Correct.
The other parcel being the open land?
Absolutely.
Okay. All right, that's that part. And then on Pugsley? Are we looking at 45-110 as being one of the swapped lands?
So-
Or 45-111? And what the heck is 45-1.5.3? I know those are two slivers of landlocked property, they look like, but I don't know.
So per the deed, per the filed deed, when the town acquired the land, they acquired two parcels, 160 Pugsley Road and 132 Pugsley Road.
Right.
160 and 132. In anticipation of the potential logistics project, as part of that project, Pugsley Road may be realigned. When that is realigned, it will no longer go through this area and will be straightened out. Those two little slivers, which is on the adjacent tax parcel, is owned as part of the larger ownership because of the potential for Pugsley Road to be reassociated.
But was 45 part of 45-1.5.3 incorporated, merged into one of the deeds for
Yes.
45-110 or 45-111? It was?
Yes, so
Okay.
there is a very long list of all the exceptions that was part of this submission. And it goes through every exclusion, every dedication that was included as part of this. There was also a series of exclusions along Pugsley Road minor slivers, again, in anticipation of the potential for Pugsley Road to be street-aligned. Now, the next step going potentially forward is if that occurs, the two area pieces in between those two slivers will eventually be abandoned, in which case that will also most likely be incorporated into the future deed. So the theory is eventually this will be one larger area and that will be one larger contiguous area, but at the moment, because we're in this weird transition space, the deed is describing the properties in a little bit of a confusing manner.
Okay, so then if 45-110 and 45-111 and that part, that piece that was incorporated in and the lands that may be abandoned, they're all part of the land swap?
Correct.
Okay, then you spoke about having, part of the area be used for ball fields for access. There's gonna be an easement, but none of that's in the resolution for the town, none of that's in the.
Let me explain. I think-
No, that's all
I-
word, that's.
Yes, let me, I'm not going back on anything, all right?
We have you on record, we have you on.
No, but I did not go back on anything. Let me just be very clear about that, okay? What I said was the following, and a question was raised with us when we came up with this concept. One of the concepts we said was, look, we know that based upon the master plan, we know that looking at the majority vote of the Open Space Committee, that this property was looked upon for both active and passive recreation, okay? However, we also recognized that what was important, we thought, to the town was to preserve those areas that might be more sensitive environmentally or something that requires additional protection. And so what we did was we took off this piece here. This is subject to the ridgeline protection. And what we said is we're going to leave that as open space. That's a sensitive area, okay? And then the south area, that will continue to be all the town's property, all right? So now, with respect to this piece, the question that was raised, well, you cut that off, but how are we going to get there? And we said, you're going to have an easement. But we can't lay out where that easement's going to be, because we don't own the property. We have to go through the New York State Legislature, we have to go through the town board, we then have to come back, if in fact we're successful with those, and then we have to develop a plan, we have to go through the entire environmental review process, and when we know where we can put the easement, we'll show you.
Now, on those restrictive,
Yeah, just come to the
lands,
mic a little bit more so people at home can hear you as well.
the restricted lands, are those the lands that contain the wetlands? Because that's what it looks like the mapping area is.
Absolutely. So the project has a protected
Oh, sorry.
The protected ridgeline area is on the north side of the parcel. Yes, absolutely, that is sensitive area. That was the determination of why this would not be included in the alienation. On the south part, there is New York State DEC regulated, as well as a town regulated wetland, as well as additional DEP water courses, town regulated water courses as well, that run through several areas of the site. Again, because of the environmental sensitivity of those areas, they were deemed the appropriate places for the remaining parkland.
Okay. All right, I think I kind of have an idea of that.
Before we start doing repeats, is there anyone else in the audience that wants to speak to this? Someone with anything new? If not, before we start repeating? Okay, your question.
Mine, a couple questions with the volume of traffic. I know with the logistics, there were studies done. Obviously, I know you're in the preliminary, but it seems like it is two separate matters, but yet it would tie into one traffic increase.
We're a long ways away from that at this point in time. That would never even come up at this point in time, because one, like he said, they don't own the property. Right now, it's in no man's
And I
land.
understand that, but I think it would also have an impact on logistics. The other thing is, Mr. Orky referred to back there, all there is stumps. The reason there are the stumps is because of all the hurricanes that we experienced, and 2 years ago, the bad storms. The county does place all that debris back there. That's the county that utilizes that land, and as it breaks down, it composts, it's a good spot for it over across from Barrett, that area. And there are many trucks that go through there on a daily basis during the summer, coming from the Pugsley area to do that. So that's there.
And that land will stay intact, that's not part of this?
Right, but when you're saying, it is beautiful back there, the trees and whatever, so I don't know if you had the opportunity to actually walk back there. I certainly do. It is gorgeous, it's not just stumps. My concern is the integrity of the land, and when you talk about Zimmer right around the corner, nobody uses Zimmer. It sits. I tried to use Zimmer once, and they told me I wasn't allowed to, so, you know.
Is Zimmer in
it's-
this area here, or is Zimmer on the other side?
It's
You-
one.
Where the
it's-
ball field is, where volunteer park
Yes,
is?
it's right over, so,
Well, that's
so
used
for
a
my
bunch.
property, it's, you know, you cut through, it's a mile and a half right off Bullet Hole, and you cut
Yeah,
through Tammany
you're
there.
talking about Terabas up by,
Yeah, they told me I
Zimmer
couldn't,
Road?
they told me I couldn't use it. I wanted to go walking on the field, there's a gate there and everything, they told me no.
oh,
I don't
it's
know
closed
why.
at certain times of the year, yes, ma'am, because there's dumping and things of that nature?
Well, I thought because I didn't live in Southeast.
Nah, we
Well,
wouldn't.
that's what I was told, but regardless, my concern here is the beauty of the property, which is why I moved there. And I understand, yes, there was other uses that were gonna be, but it was not on top. And I know everyone keeps calling it Pugsley, but isn't this area actually Fields
Fields
Corner
Corners,
Road?
yep, Fields
Right,
Corner
so
Road.
when you say
Where?
straighten it out through Pugsley, just for my understanding, are you straightening it out through
Fields Corner is
Pugsley
Patterson.
through Fields Corner?
Fields Corner.
Oh, okay, because
This
I was
section
talking,
is-
the young lady,
This is
right.
Pugsley,
Okay,
comes
so I
up
didn't know
Barrett,
how far
goes to
down.
Fields
For
Corner.
my obvious
Fields
concerns,
Corner.
you're on top of me.
Where's, that's in
And
Patterson.
what is the buffer
And
that
Gazappel,
is
we've got a portion
is
of it.
there? I would
in
imagine that's a
southeast.
buffer.
Starts at the
100-foot
Barrett Road.
setback.
Barrett
Town
Road goes all the way
regulations.
through.
Right,
Well, when
Fields
it's up-
Corner.
That doesn't mean
This is
we're,
Fields Corner.
there, again, there's no concept.
right. But I'm sure if you
Fields
walked
Corner's
and you
in-
saw the lovely
Southeast, right?
Barracuda,
I think
and
they're
what a
gonna
lovely
leave
piece of property that I
Pumps it
have,
should go all the
that
way through.
with all this, you know, I like my woods, but I'll leave it to the town. That's the question for us.
Questions, please.
Excuse me?
Questions only.
Yeah. Why was the Star Ridge property not a suitable property for just baseball, active recreation?
Can you answer that? Yeah.
Why wasn't it? It's perfect, by the way. It's just a big lawn.
You see this big lawn, did you go to the right property?
I went, I.
The only lawn there is with the house.
You know what? I went on Star Ridge.
Uh-huh.
There are posts, and there is an entranceway. The house is all the way to the rear, all the way to the rear.
How far back is it?
Unoccupied. Going from Star Ridge
How was you gonna
to,
afford that house?
excuse me, going from Star Ridge to that house is just flat land. It could be so easily used for baseball, and it would
But
be
that's-
so
that's a-
great.
Ms. Venezia, that land is staying with the house. The land is behind the house and it wraps around and has
Well,
frontage on
I
Star
didn't,
Ridge.
you know, there was a big sign. You know, I'm very careful if things are posted or anything like that. I didn't see a posting sign. I'm talking about the frontage from Star Ridge all the way to the rear where the house is.
That's going to be the house. That has nothing to do with the land swap.
No, excuse me. You know, I'm just saying what is now visually here, right here. All of that land, and probably behind it, because I know Mrs. Fitchin, and she would be rolling in her grave if she knew. But anyway, I am asking, why is not that property suitable for baseball? Because certainly the people of that area, aside from Ryder Farm, have absolutely no means to any recreation such as baseball, unlike us. that has Zimmer Road, not a mile away.
Well, no, I mean, look, at this point in time, I went out to the house, you know what I like about the house? It's got a 5-car garage. I love that house. Got a beautiful view. I know what you're looking at, I mean, it probably sits off the road 200 feet, maybe?
Easily.
Well, you can't, you know how a baseball field, the biggest problem we have with Zimmer Road and that park up there?
Has 15 acres.
Yeah, but what happens
15
is the
acres.
line down the left-hand and the right-hand line is less than 300 feet. And when you play, when we say Major League, there's Little League, and then there's Babe Ruth, and Major League, they have a 90-foot base path, and they need 330 feet before they have to hit a home run line. And you couldn't fit a kiddie park on that acreage. And it goes downhill. I don't know what you looked at, but I'm telling you right now.
Well, no, I'm telling you what I saw,
Well, then you,
okay?
So
And it
any-
said 273 Star Ridge Road.
that's the house number.
And that's the house number.
Yes.
And that's the land I was looking at.
And it shows you on there,
You
it's
know,
like this,
that-
and then you got this.
No, you got a
Ma'am, you're
huge
wrong.
piece of property.
Miss,
You
would
know
mind
what?
showing us- would
I
you
wish
show
I
her-
had a smartphone where I could show you.
We don't
the
need a smartphone,
picture.
we got a smart map right here.
No, we don't, we don't,
Flip
we
that
have
over.
a lot of smart.
No,
smart-
just flip it over.
Yeah.
Now show her
Yeah.
where the house is.
It's in the back. I know.
But then look at, there's
And
more,
there's the whole, where is Star Ridge? Star Ridge comes all the way, and there is a huge piece of property right in front. Huge,
Thank you.
huge.
wait, that's not
I was
ours.
there. I was there just the other day.
I've been there, and what we're talking about, Mrs. Fitchen would be rolling in her grave if there were baseball diamonds throughout this property. And so what we're proposing is
No one's
that this
rolling.
be open space, and I think Mr. Lord walked the property today. The house is the house. It's going to stay a house, okay? And the subdivision that's approved, or seeking approval, is to take this one large lot, divide it into 2 lots. The house is going to be on 7 acres, and then the rest of the property is being proposed, swapped to the town over 94 acres with the beautiful sunsets to the west.
Okay,
And the land is not a lawn. Mr. Lloyd, is the land, I understand you came back and
anything but a lawn.
you're a little cut up from walking through the brambles.
okay. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be moving on. We have a big agenda here this evening. We will have a public hearing next week at this time, starting at 7 o'clock. And if you like make comments at that time, if you can't make it and you want to put them in writing to the town board, we will address it at that time. And you'll be back next week, Mr. O'Rourke?
I'm sorry.
You'll be back next week?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank
Number
you.
2, discussion. 577 North Main Street, special permit for a kennel. Is anyone here for that? Anyone here for 577 North Main Street, special permit kennel? They asked to be put on the agenda. Seeing no one, I'm going to call them tomorrow and find out why they're not here, and we might put it on the next agenda. Next, number 3, proposed amendment, Chapter 103, Section 103-8, permit fees. I put this forward for the following reason. As you know, we have vendor regulations, and with the permits, or initially when we put this together, we had full year, half year, per day, per month. Now, we've had an applicant come forward that wanted to vend, but again, if you want to sell ice cream, and the way we had it before, you would go from July 1st to December 31st. Well, no one's buying ice cream in December. However, Memorial Day, which is in May, so what we're proposing to do is to have an effective date and an expiration date. They get to pick the 6 months that they want to vend, but they can't, if they want to do a month, they can do a month. But if they want to go 6 months, they pick the 6 months, and if they want to do a year, they pick the year. So if someone wants to vend year-round, they can pick a calendar year, they pick the 365 days they want, and if it's a half year, they pick the time. That's what page 1 is about, which is WS3. So it's there. We're going to remove that, and they identify excuse me, the full year. The next were vendor rules and regulations, information. Permits will be $500 annually, which shall be determined by the applicant, and $250 for 6 months, which shall be determined by the applicant. In other words, they pick the time when they want to be there. If they're found guilty of violating the code, which we've had happen, if they receive 3 convictions within 6 months and are 12 months to their permit date. So it's no longer going to be a calendar year, but they determine what the year would be. And on the next page, number C, permits shall be issued annually, dates of which shall be determined by the applicant. Down in number F, properties on an annual basis, annual, monthly, and weekly, and those are the proposed changes. So basically, the person that's applying for the permit dictates when the permit will be. And Michelle, you're fine with that? Mm-hmm. As a town clerk?
Yeah.
We work on that? Okay. Any discussion?
So it'll be an annual fee, but they'll just be determining the time that the annual fee starts?
Yes. If
Okay,
they,
so it's
they can have, if they want an annual, 1 year, they pick the year, okay?
Thank you.
And if they want 6 months, they pick the 6 months. Like, the ice cream is the best one. They start Memorial Day, and they probably close down on Labor Day. It's not 6 months, but either they do it by the month. It's cheaper to buy a 6-month permit than a monthly permit, because some people only want to be in business for a month or per day.
Question, is there any leeway on the per month? Like if you wanted to start at mid-month or something?
No, it doesn't say. It's a month.
Okay.
You get 30, well, we'll give them 31 days. Not 28 like in February.
No, I'm just saying,
I
like,
know.
at the
No.
start date to end date, they
Yeah.
can pick.
Yeah.
I just wasn't sure.
You know, we would do it. Do we have to write that in there? I don't think so. They want a month, Will?
No, it's just year to
I know,
date.
but what John's asking, if someone wants a month, they want to come in the middle of June until the middle of July.
So it's June 13th to
July
October
1st.
13th.
Yeah.
It's
No,
the
1
total
month.
6 months. It's 6.
No. But he's asking if a person wants to come in for a month.
Yeah, then
They,
it's,
they come in June 10th, and they
Then they
can
go-
stay until
it's
July
July
9th, whatever.
yeah, 30
Yes.
days.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So I'm going to put that onto the agenda for the next meeting. Next item, any other comment from anyone?
No, thanks.
Okay. Next one, to propose amendment, Chapter 138, Section 138, 4B, definitions, sections, shooting ranges. John?
Anybody have any questions for us?
Did you have any questions on that, ma'am? It definitely has absolutely nothing to do with that proposal.
I know you're saying that, but I
No.
find that so hard to believe, because I'm thinking, you know, there has to be a reason why this land swap is occurring, and the.
Bad timing.
parcels
Bad timing.
You know, which would be very convenient to have a Paladin Center replacement.
But the county-
Which I would advocate for. I'm all in favor of that.
The county could do that under 10 acres if they chose to.
Yeah, I know that, but.
But we can't say what they may or may not do. We don't know that. But what this applicant is in front of us for has nothing to do with it.
No, it doesn't, but you know what, I don't think there's transparency with them either. I think they're being disingenuous, because I think that. they
No,
may
just
not
come up,
have
just
plans.
come up and speak, please.
You know, they may not have plans that are physically drawn, but I think that they know what they want to do with that property.
They do. They
I
want to
really
put ball
do.
fields in.
Yeah, well, I think it's gonna be a little more than ball fields, because that's an awful lot of altruism.
Well,
So,
when you read the code, the two would not jive being together, the way our code is written. It wouldn't happen. Either be ball fields or if it's a shooting range. But
Yeah.
that's not what these people are asking for. It's got, unfortunately, it's poor timing.
all right, I'm,
Just so, Ms. Sauer, just so you know that this group that's looking to develop this property are in the business of doing baseball training in other municipalities.
Okay.
And that's their business.
so that's truly their business,
That is
baseball.
truly their business.
Well, I figured pro swing, it was either baseball or golf or something along those lines, but,
Yeah, I
you
think
know,
they have a
I thought
facility
that
in
that
Mount
was
Kisco.
just kind of a segue into a larger facility with other amenities, you know, some kind of training facility for the police, because that seems to be what is affected by the amendment changes in 138. It looks,
That's probably exactly what will happen. But however, the way it's being proposed, it couldn't take place. It has to be a certain amount of distance from residential homes and things of that nature.
Right.
So it won't fit. Any rate, one has nothing to do with the other. I can assure you that.
Okay.
On the 10 acres, I can't say that, and there's nothing that's
Right.
out there. It was just time that at some point in time, someone has to move somewhere.
Right,
And we have it on private property, we don't have it on any other property.
right.
So,
Okay,
okay,
fair enough.
thank you. Okay, so, we'll schedule for public hearing, not the time after. I'll do that at the next meeting, schedule a public hearing. Yes.
How did this work session item come about? I mean, I just saw it in the packet. What's the,
So
where'd
in
it come from?
2017, the town board made an amendment regarding recreation and lists all types of recreation. And what that was all encompassing. It didn't separate out by zones, what was prohibited or anything. So in that case, why should government overreach bring everything under one such large umbrella? So for, say for instance, commercial purposes or anything like that, this changes that to redefine the difference between residential recreation allowances and all other purposes.
And those are the only changes? Because I see a whole bunch of, I think it adds shooting ranges. That was an excluded use at one time, so it's a little bit, this is a broader,
In residential
submission.
zones, in the residential zone, in all zones.
okay, so, but that's not something that we had in the code before, so
No.
that is, it's more than just
It's
defining. So
spelling
what
it
is the
out.
whole thing?
So it would allow, as an example, shooting ranges to be added to anything other than residential, and then if those were in zones that were adjacent to residential, it would also have certain restrictions as far as how that could be placed.
Okay.
It was initially put into our code way back when someone wanted to put a paintball range on Brewster Hill Road, and the town board, it wasn't really well received.
Okay.
And that's why that was thrown into the code pretty quick, and now we've had an opportunity to review it. There's a need for a change, and paintball is still not allowed.
Paintball will not be allowed now? Or
Well,
still?
no, paintball was
I
part,
think it was because it was close
written.
to a residential area.
Yes.
Was the real issue, not because you can't have paintball.
So,
Oh, yeah, it was written into the residential code. That's where we're removing it from residential.
That's what I mean, that was the impetus, it was that, it was in a residential area.
oh yeah, that was the one over on,
Milltown, I
Bruce,
think.
no, Brewster
Brewster
Hill.
Hill Road.
Yeah.
yeah.
So it was thrown together kind of quick, and
So shooting ranges as a commercial activity would be allowed in which zones?
where?
Right now, it'd be proposed that it will,
I didn't hear the question, sorry.
Shooting ranges as a commercial activity would be allowed in which zones now?
It's in the back.
amendments to zoning schedule,
Which
section 4,
zone?
page 5.
In NB, ED, OP1, OP2, OP3, GC, SR6, HC, SR22, RC. The only areas it would not be is in residential zones, and it has to be 1,000 feet away from a residential zone when it gets put in.
And is there a minimum acreage?
10.
10 acres. So
10
there's-
acres.
There's a lot of areas in town where this would be allowed.
Yes, there's areas that could be allowed, yes. But they have to be 10 acres, and they also have to be within more than 1,000 feet from a residential area.
Okay. Okay.
Okay?
So we're going to have a public hearing on this?
We will, I'm not gonna, we won't get scheduled, we got enough on the next round for public hearing, so it'll be shortly thereafter.
Okay, yeah, because, yeah,
Yeah, we gotta,
we got to look at this pretty closely too. So
what's that?
This zoning change.
Okay, just, right, if you want to ask a question so we can answer before him, we can do that.
Cool.
You know, I thought I had enough time that people had opportunity to make the comment this evening, but you can do it in the future.
Great.
Yes?
Can I ask just a quick question? And I'm sorry, I haven't read the proposed change that well, but for the go-karts, and are they a special permit too? Or is it just the shooting range is a special permit?
I don't know. And I don't want to answer because, let's see. I think almost all the recreation requires special permits. Doesn't it? All the zones require special permit of the town board?
Because it wasn't that long ago that these changes were put into effect.
I know, it was about,
And there was a reason.
yeah, it was the paintball.
Right. So it kind of, what, every couple of years you're going to change it to fit, to work for somebody else?
Depends. Well, we don't know. I mean, right now.
I mean, shouldn't the town
should not
code,
be- it should
shouldn't
not
the
be in a
town
resident-
code be made to be almost a forever thing, or at least revisited every 10 years? Because I think it is within the past 10 years that was, within
Well,
the last 5 years maybe that was done.
Well, maybe we worked on the other one a little bit too quick and didn't have an opportunity, but when people ask questions, we try to make the change according to the question.
Okay. So as far as, and you don't know if it's a special permit needed for
I
those
believe all
other-
recreation requires special permit.
Okay. All right.
I'll find out for sure, I can call you and let you know.
Great.
But I believe all recreation uses require a special permit.
Okay, because it actually stipulates for the shooting range,
Yes.
but it doesn't, I didn't see it for the other items.
I don't, I don't have the exact code, but in the code book, if you look under the recreation, if you see go-karts, whatever, or whatever you're speaking to, it'll identify that it requires a special
It
permit.
does mention special permits on page 4 of the draft.
Of this resolution,
Item F.
John?
Which
Of the new proposed one?
page, it's definitely in the, shooting, no, which one, John? What
If you
number?
go down to the bottom of the page, F, transfer of special permit. So that implies.
Oh, yeah, but
it's a special
that's not what she's asking.
You're asking for like the other
For the
uses, like
for the
go-karts.
go-karts and the paintball and everything else?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll let you know, but in the back of the town code, under the different districts, when you look under permitted uses,
Right.
and it says special permit,
Right.
I'm gonna bet that it's under the special permit.
Okay, so they're listed, so they're actually a permitted use now?
In the
with
back
a
of the-
special permit?
Yes. Certain things in recreation areas, yes.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay? Okay, to be discussed in the future. Okay, next one is work session number 5, proposed amendment, chapter 123, 138, A 143, section 123.3, section 123-6, definitions. What I'm proposing, as you know, we recently put in, not we, but the parking up at the glass building. They put in parking, which has really been a big help. The 75 spaces are being used. I think they're about 90% used. It freed up a lot of space. We got something at the end of the agenda, which I'm going to have to add tonight as well. We'll get to that. But the bottom line is, when I got up there and I'm walking around, it's not that I'm getting old, but, I'm coming to a curve and I have to step up. And people would, baby carriages, older people walking with a cane. And I'm saying to myself, why do we make sidewalks today where they don't have like the ramp? I go to many places and I see those ramps everywhere, but not here in the town of Southeast. So I called Ashley and asked her to write something up, so anytime we put in a curb now in the town of Southeast, it has to have one of those access ramps for easy accessibility to kids, older people, and anybody in the world. That's what this is all about. Any questions?
No questions.
Okay. I'm gonna bring it forward to the next meeting. Make a motion to go into the regular portion of the meeting?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, resolution ARB recommendation, Life Storage, Inc. Now therefore be resolved that the town board hereby accepts and approves the report of the Architectural Review Board dated January 29th, 2000, that should be 2020? Yep, that should be, 2020. I'm making that change as I read it. In connection with the application of Life Storage, Inc., which seeks amended site plan approval for an existing commercial storage facility located at 1639 Route 22, tax map ID 46.3-13, including construction of a 3-story, 18,144 square foot climate-controlled commercial storage building, associated pavement repair, elimination of certain outdoor storage and wetland buffer restoration. A copy of the ARB recommendation report is annexed hereto and made part hereof, and that such report shall be incorporated in any final site plan subsequently reviewed and approved by the project of the planning board. So move for discussion.
I'll second.
Discussion. All in favor? Aye. Number 2, resolution to approve highway department equipment expenditure. Now therefore, as you know, the town highway superintendent was here last evening, well, our last meeting, he's here this evening as well, and he made the following request to the town board. Now therefore be resolved that the town highway superintendent is authorized to expend in the amount not to exceed $47,600 for the purchase of a pavement blacktop roller. B, 108, I'm going to read the numbers, see what the numbers, $108,700 for purchase of a hydraulic excavator. C, $180,000 for purchase of 2 federal surplus plow trucks. And be further resolved that the Southeast Superintendent of Highways requires in addition funds above the amount allotted. He will need further authorization by the town board to make such expenditure, and be further resolved that this resolution shall be take effect immediately. So move for discussion.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, resolution local law amend chapter 138-44B3 notification. Now therefore be resolved that the town board of the town of Southeast hereby adopts local law number 1 of 2020 pursuant to municipal home rule law to amend chapter 138 of the town code zoning, section 138-44B3 notification, to establish the manner in which a notice of certain land use and variance applications may be given when the subject of the application is located within a cooperative housing corporation, and be further resolved that the town clerk be and is hereby authorized and directed to A, enter said local law in the minutes of the meeting and in the code book of the town of Southeast, and B, give due notice of the adoption of said local law by filing such with the Secretary of State of New York within the time required by law. And in particular, this has to do with Vales down the, well, it's a co-op and not a condominium. That's the purpose of this, for clarification. So move for discussion.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Lori, you think that'll work now? Okay, thank you. Okay, resolution number 4, settlement of certiorari proceedings, Centennial Golf Club. Now therefore be resolved that the town board of the town of Southeast does hereby accept the recommendations of professional advisors and authorizes the town attorney to execute a stipulation of settlement, consent judgment, and/or order on consent in accordance with said recommendation for the following. Petitioner, Centennial Golf Club, tax ID 44.-1-1, year 2017, assessment $3,202,800, settled assessment $2,377,500. Tax ID 44-1-1, 2018, assessment $3,202,800, settled assessment $2,282,400. Same tax ID 41.-1-1, 2019, assessment $3,202,800, settled assessment $2,187,300. And be further resolved that the town attorney is hereby authorized and directed to execute any and all stipulations, consent orders, or other documents necessary to reflect the foregoing settlement. So move for discussion.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Number 5, it's an appointment to fill the vacancy on the Architectural Review Board. Now therefore be resolved that the town board of the town of Southeast hereby appoints Carla Lucchino, L-U-C-C-H-I-N-O, to fill the unexpired term of the Southeast Architectural Review Board created by the resignation of John Gowdy. And be further resolved that the appointment shall take effect upon taking and filing the appropriate oath of office with the town clerk of the town of Southeast. So move for discussion.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Number 6, resolution, Board of Assessment Review, appointment to fill unexpired term. Now therefore be resolved that the town board of the town of Southeast hereby appoints Lisa LaGuardia Tremblay to serve an unexpired term on the Southeast Town Board of Assessment Review to expire on September 30, 2022. And be further resolved that the appointment shall take effect upon the taking and filing the appropriate oath of office with the clerk of the town of Southeast. So move for discussion.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor? Anything I need to know? Good. Don't confuse me. Okay. Next is a motion to appoint Mary Larkin as the ARB chairwoman. So moved.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Number 8, it's a motion to authorize the sale of Highway Department surplus equipment. It's marked on here as R number 8. There's items that have been at the Highway Department for a bit, and is asking for the permission to sell this used surplus equipment. I'll move. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Discussion. All in favor? Aye. Number 9, it's we're going to set the public hearing, like we said earlier this evening, for parkland alienation, Thursday, February 13, 2020, 7 p.m., 1360 Route 22. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next is to set a public hearing for permit fees, Section 103-8, Thursday, February 20, 2020, 7 p.m., Route 22. So moved.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
And I want to just ask for one more item if we could. John, thank you for moving this along. We spoke earlier about the parking up at Caramount. When the town gave permission to use part of our lands, which we're both benefited by for parking, part of the thought was, because it's so congested up on Route 312, that they would give them another exit on, I hate to say what side, on the Home Depot side, okay?
Independent
There's-
Way.
Well, I don't know if anyone knows where Independence Way, but anyway, by Home Depot, the road that comes out there, Independence Way, okay? There's an exit there now. So what we're gonna recommend, and the state wants a letter from the town board, which I'm gonna ask them for permission tonight to write and to sign, is we are asking Caramount and the state to work together to post signs when you come out on the Route 312. Now, when you're coming in off of 312, you can come in and out currently. But if you recall, when you're coming in, if you're coming from Home Depot going toward Carmel, there's a left-hand turn lane, and there's another lane right next to it. So what's happening, when people are sitting there in the lane to make a left going in there, people are pulling out thinking it's clear because they're looking at that car there, and cars are coming by which have the right-of-way, and there's been a couple crashes there. So they're asking not to allow any more left-hand turn coming out of Caramount. You can still make a right, but you can't make a left, and they've asked for that sign and permission. So this evening, I'm gonna ask a motion to waive the rule. Well, so I need permission. I'll make a motion to waive the rule to accept this for discussion.
I'll accept, or I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And now so bottom line is, we're gonna send a letter to the state. It's already been drafted for us, and we're gonna ask that them work with Caramount. So from now on, if you wanna make a left coming out of Caramount, you gotta go up through the parking lot, go out the entrance on Independence Way, make a left if you wanna go to Home Depot, or go down to the light to make your left. And believe me, it's all about safety. It's a tremendous amount of traffic up there, and it's, again, all about safety. And if you wanna go to the right and go down to the train station, you can do that as well. So I'm gonna ask for permission as you send that letter out
Make a motion
ASAP.
that you write a letter and send it out on behalf of the board.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Public comment? Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
I have, one comment on that. I think actually it's a good idea to restrict that left-hand turn because it's not safe coming out of there. So it's great that there's another alternative, which will be on that main road. But has anyone proposed any kind of traffic regulation on that road? Because that road's not such a safe road either.
What do you mean by?
On Independence, because when you've got Dunkin' Donuts and Applebee's on the one side with the GameStop and the eyeglass place, and then across the road you have the bank and you have the community drugs and you have the diner and you have a host of other shops and whatever, and two entrances and exits going in. It gets absolutely nuts. People are coming off of 84. They're not going slow. They're barreling up that road. So there should be, now that we have yet another entrance onto that roadway, we should have some kind of traffic device to restrict the speed and movement of traffic on that roadway. So,
Well, a traffic light is out of the question if that's one of your thoughts.
well, it is, but why? Why couldn't
Well,
you?
because there's so much distance required, like on Route 312, there's a traffic light which allows it to come in. By the time you get to Applebee's, the distance for there, because you can either make a left to go to Home
Right.
Depot and those shops there, or right into the Applebee's shopping center there. The distance from one light to the next does not meet
Too-
state standards and can't be done.
And I
Okay.
think they also looked at, or I was at a meeting, they talked about a roundabout for there, but it's too steep of a slope.
Okay, so there really isn't any kind of
No,
traffic
but
control
at some point in time,
device?
we may ask for the same thing coming out there, they have to make a right and go up and turn around and come back down. But we don't have jugheads in the area, so I don't know how that will work, but
And then the property that's above the new parking field,
jug handles?
Jug handles.
Yeah, what is that?
is that,
Okay, time out.
What
I'm a
happened?
Marine, sorry, I lost my
Oh,
head.
jarhead, you meant.
Jugheads.
the parking area that's, the land that's above the new parking area, is that town land?
Yes.
And is that being developed for something?
Not at this time.
Okay, so we're not gonna have yet another curb cut in there?
Well, there is a curb cut currently.
There is?
Yes,
Okay,
there is a curb cut.
It's the same one for the parking lot, though, right?
but
No.
it's a
No,
different one.
It's different.
So where does it go to? Is
It goes
just-
up into the lot, there's 10 acres of land that the town owns, which someday will be a park, a town hall, and whatever. At some time, you won't worry about it now, because we
Right,
don't
right.
have the money to do it. But there's a curb cut there to go in.
Okay, all right, but it's not an active,
No, it's basically just used by the town, and I understand the police go up there and turn around and come back out.
It's a good place to see a sunset too, if you pull off.
it is, it's beautiful, I mean, that's perfect.
And that's where they set the fireworks off. too.
Yeah.
That's the area they set it off.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, thank you.
Okay, we're working on it now, it may be something more in the future, but not anything we've discussed tonight. Yes, sir.
Good evening.
I said Chuck.
So let me just get myself situated here. I don't know if I had to request a work session for my particular case here, but I have just a situation I'd just like to bring across the board.
First of all, you have to state your name for the record.
Matthew DeRose.
Matthew
DeRose.
DeRose, okay, and you live in Southeast?
Yes.
Okay.
My wife and I, Lisa DeRose, we've moved into Southeast about 10 years ago. Originally, we lived in more of a rural area, and we decided to move into Star Ridge Manor due to the neighborhood. We wanted a better neighborhood for our children. Now, as we initially bought the property, we had a series of issues. One was a new oil tank that we needed to purchase because the oil tank, I guess due to the nature of house inspections, can't, access inside walls. So we had to purchase a new oil tank.
Inside or outside? Was it for inside or outside?
Inside.
Okay.
Inside. So we were at the mercy of oil companies saying that we can't fill this tank because it is pitted and rotted and, environmental issues and whatnot. So we had to purchase an oil tank, which was around like $5,000 after all is said and done.
Now, mind me asking a question? Now, you said you've been here for 10 years?
Correct.
Now, when you bought the house, an inspection was done?
Correct.
And the oil tank was fine at the time?
They couldn't inspect it because it was inside it was underneath a set of stairs. So I guess they can't open up walls to inspect.
No, it's buried?
But this is
Okay.
not my main.
Okay.
I'm just trying to paint a picture here for you. Right before we took possession of the house, the basement flooded. So we knew that
Can you describe where the house is in Star Ridge?
it's on 10 Andrea Drive. It's inside the
Okay. Okay.
the subdivision.
Is the town working behind, is that the house behind, Mike? Is this the same house?
Yeah, it's the house behind, Mr. Seckast. Mr. Seckast is upset with.
Okay, okay.
Okay, so I'm guessing you're aware of the situation here.
I just want to have an idea where.
Yeah, okay. So we're right in the eye of the storm, I guess. Now, the reason why I'm here is because not only did our basement flood in January, our basement flooded a second time due to the septic backing up. We knew due to the house inspection that the septic fields were failing. We just didn't know what the reasoning was. On Halloween, our septic backed up, and we knew that throughout the whole year that we've been.
This was 2019 or 10 years ago?
This is 2019.
Okay.
So in 2019, hold on, my wife's gonna come up and help me out here.
Correct you.
You're in trouble.
Yeah, right. So we purchased the house in 2019.
Yeah, so we just purchased the house, so not even a year, it was December a year. So
Right.
we didn't live here for 10 years.
Oh,
We
okay.
just moved into this facility.
Right.
Thank you.
And we've been dealing with a lot of issues throughout the year that we've been living in the Star Ridge Manor. So our septic backed up on Halloween. We knew that we had water issues on the property. We just didn't know where this water was coming from. So we hired Tyndall to, I guess, redistribute the downspouts around the foundation, mitigate the water, trying to figure out where the water had come from, because we weren't actually in possession of the house when the house flooded the first time. We were living there during Halloween when it flooded due to the septic. At that point, we decided to now hire an engineer to take a look at our septic system. I forget the name of the gentleman that came out, but he charged us around $450 just to come and talk to us, and realizing that we would have to pay more money just to have him design a septic system based on the layout of our property and where the water was. So we decided to not go that route and to hire a neighbor who is a contractor in Star Ridge Manor. So we decided that we needed new septic fields. We had the Putnam County Health Department come out, and they did a perk test, and they said that we couldn't get our septic fields repaired unless we got water off our property. So, which led us to investigate a little bit more on where this water was coming from. And throughout the year that we've been living in the manor, we've heard rumblings of, oh yeah, you have a stream, you have a river that's underneath your property. And I said, oh, a river, okay, thanks. And people say that there's pipes and whatnot. And I investigated, and we found that there is a natural spring that runs through the north end of my property, but it's in an easement. It's in a drainage easement, and that feeds Peach Lake Brook, which feeds the lake. Now, this spring runs all year round. It's 365 days a year. The hottest day in July, it's still running. I'd estimate about 20 gallons per minute on the driest day. Now, in 2019, in Halloween, we had the old highway superintendent come out to take a look at the drain and say, and ask them to investigate and see if the actual culvert is broken, because this drain pipe was installed in the 50s. And when I had Tyndall install the downspouts and have them run into the storm drains with a permit, we noted that the pipe was rusted but not failing.
Which pipe?
This drainage pipe that runs north.
The town drainage pipe or
Correct.
yours?
It's the town drainage
Okay.
pipe. It's an 18-inch galvanized corrugated pipe that runs from Andrea Drive. It runs, I guess it just runs the length of the properties all the way to the brook, which feeds the lake. I'm sorry. I have a map. I'll show you the map, which also, when I had asked the old highway superintendent to investigate the pipe, the answer they gave me was, we don't know where these pipes lead. We don't even know if they have drawings of this map. And I went to the Putnam County office, and it took me all 5 minutes to find that this drainage pipe does exist, and that it was installed over 50 years ago. it's hard to, so my house is lot number 41. It's on the corner here. The storm drain is at this black dot here. It runs about 5 or 6 properties to Peach Lake Brook.
It runs behind the house or down Andrea Drive?
It runs behind the property lines.
Behind all those
All
lots?
those, yeah.
Okay.
All those properties. Now, this pipe has been, like I said before, has been rumblings of the neighborhood. And apparently, Ms. Setgast is, I guess made the town aware of the water problems in the neighborhood. This pipe, when we investigated further, because the last highway superintendent came to our property and looked around and says, "See you later." And I said, "Okay, thanks for your help," for nothing.
Is that the case now?
It is not the case now. I'll get to that. Mr. Burdick actually was prompt in repairing this storm drain.
Is it fixed now?
It is fixed now.
Okay.
It took all of one day for him to come out and have his guys come out and repair it, which I was there, I was watching them. They did a great job. My reasoning my reason why I'm here is that over the years that this drainage pipe has been broken, and this natural spring has been flowing, I guess, due east, right, on the map, onto the property, it's causing the property to flood. And I can't get the water off the property with the design that the Putnam County Health Department told us that we had to put a curtain drain in. Now, this curtain drain basically runs about 100 feet from one part of my property close to where the drain pipe that was broken to cut off all the water that was flowing onto the property. The health department approved the design. It's costing me about 10 grand just for the curtain drain to even get to the point that I have to then also pay for septic repairs. So I can't even get the septic repaired until I get the water off the property. The water flow has stopped, but it still doesn't change the fact that the water has been on the property for many, many years. And this pipe, I could show you the pictures, this pipe has been broken for many, many years.
Well, now that it's fixed, will it not dry up?
Well, they fixed it actually in January when Mr. Burdick took office as superintendent, because this was a necessary repair. I need a septic system. So my neighbor, Mr. DeVito, Gary DeVito, who's a contractor, he's been very helpful, and we've been doing everything we can, according to the town code, getting permits, making sure that the health department was out there, making sure we were doing the right thing, designing a drainage system that wouldn't affect the septic leaching into the storm drain. So we've been doing our homework, and one thing I did notice is that one of my neighbors actually sent an email out in May of 2019. And this was directly related to these storm drains failing.
Sent to whom?
I'm sorry?
Sent to whom?
To Mr. Bruin.
Okay.
It was a neighbor, I'll read it to you. I'm writing to you to inform you that about 2 very dangerous storm drains on our road. We live at 15 Andrea Drive in Storage Manor. Shortly before you end the cul-de-sac, there are 2 storm drains across from one another. Both drains have big holes behind them and are caving in. On an average day, there are about 6 to 12 children. It would be greatly appreciated if these holes could be looked at. So I'll show you what they did after those holes were looked at. I'm glad I took a picture of it because it was, my son with his Tonka truck can put better repairs. So this is the storm drain, and if you can see, it's the fall now when I took it, but they just put rocks in the hole around where the storm drain leads. So the storm drain, I'm sorry, it's this way. So my property sits over here. This storm drain runs underneath, going down Susan Road. This is a natural spring. Now, I mean, you know, you could see it's due to, you know, weather, salt, but the pipe itself, sorry. The pipe itself is rusted beyond, you know, that's what it was prior to the repairs. And now the natural spring was flowing directly under the pipe.
Okay, you know, I don't think this town board, look at, I don't know, what's the if you give us the bottom line, I know.
Bottom line is, you know, I think that the town should be responsible for the damage. I'm not asking for the town to repair my septic system. I'm asking the town directly to help me financially with the mitigating the water off my property so that I can go ahead and get the approval of the health department.
Well, we couldn't answer that question this evening.
Okay.
I would suggest that you put whatever you're seeking in a letter to the town, and we'll forward it to the town attorney who's here this evening, and I'm not going to ask him to comment. We have a town engineer. We have the highway superintendent who's, you know, tried to repair the pipe. We have, unfortunately, a lot of drainage pipes in the town. I lived in Brewster Heights back in 1957, and it's same type of thing going on. They're all going to eventually get repaired. So I don't know what you're seeking, but if you put it in writing to us, like I said, we'll forward it to the town attorney.
Okay.
And if it requires whatever you choose to do in the future, I don't want to mention any word in particular, we will work on it from there.
Okay.
But you did get some satisfaction so far.
It's somewhat. I mean, you know, I don't think that I should be taking the burden of a neglected, you know, this pipe has been, you know, neglected for many, many years. And now I have to put this drain on my property, which costs me a lot of money.
Well, we're going to have to go back into our records. Once you provide us with whatever
Okay.
you seek, put it into a letter form.
Okay.
We will go back and see if we were put on notice about whatever's going on, and it'll be up to the town attorney to instruct the board, but we will get back to you with whatever you want to. Send the pictures with a package.
Okay.
Again, there's,
Well, I spoke to Mr. Burdick, and he forwarded my request already to the town attorney, but I haven't been able to get any.
We spoke about it over the phone.
Yeah,
I
I
have not seen any detail.
Okay, right.
did you write a letter behind it with the?
I have not. This is my
So-
first time bringing it to the board, and obviously, Mr. Burdick only took the intended job in January, so.
Okay, so what I'm going to ask you to do this evening, when you get a
Okay,
chance.
yep.
And have your wife help you.
Yeah.
Write a letter identifying this story. We want to know, what do you want from here on? The town attorney will then advise us. He'll check, you know, of course, to the town engineer, the highway superintendent, and we'll get back to you. And can't say what's going to happen, but we'll look into it.
Okay, thank you.
At first, I'm going to say it's the first I heard it, because Mike only told me because there's a problem out in that area. I've heard in the past 2 weeks. The other person you mentioned's been.
Yeah, causing issues, I guess. you
And
know.
I don't believe for 1 second you were even beginning to respond to what is being said, but that's another story.
Right.
So, again, just.
No, I understand that this is the first time, you know, this is initial, you know.
Send
that's
a
what-
letter to myself.
Okay,
I'll give you my email address.
okay.
Okay. It's ta@southeast-ny.gov. Send a letter to me. I will forward it to the town board, send it to the town attorney, and we'll look into the matter, and we'll get back to you.
All right, thank you very much. Thank
Okay.
you for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks.
We give you more time, but I don't want to waste your time, but we need more information, what you're seeking, and
Absolutely.
go the route.
This is my first, you know, unfortunately, my first town board meeting, so I just.
I hope it's your last, no.
Thank you.
Thanks for sitting through the beginning.
Well, he's welcome, look, he's smiling. Thank you. Okay, anyone else from the public? And don't get scared, we're only kidding. Town board?
No, look forward to seeing everybody on next Thursday.
Okay.
I'd like
Yeah.
to apologize to everyone because you're probably all sick now.
Oh, great. I'm gonna close it. Okay, like when I opened this meeting this evening, I told you about the passing of Lois Hotel, and I'm gonna ask we close the meeting this evening in her honor and read this proclamation into the record. Whereas it is a sense of the town board that the quality of our community is measured by the unique and extraordinary accomplishments of the citizens who reside within its borders. Whereas Lois Seas Hotel distinguished herself as an outstanding citizen and member of our community by continually dedicating her efforts throughout the town of Southeast. And whereas Lois Seas Hotel was the first and to date the only female supervisor of the town of Southeast, serving from 1996 to 2003. Prior to her supervisory position, she served as the town council for 10 years, as well as this planning board, Southeast Recreation Committee, and Putnam County Land Trust. And whereas Lois Seas Hotel was a deserving recipient of numerous community service awards from Putnam County Sheriff's Honor Corps, Brewster Chamber of Commerce, Village of Brewster's Medal of Honor, Putnam County Supervisors Association, Kiwanis, Brewster Elks Lodge, VFW, Americanism Award, among others, and the list is so long of what she did.
She was on the Mothers Guild, too.
I couldn't believe it would take 3 pages to recognize her. And we've put this proclamation into a nice frame, which we're gonna have there, but if you can't have 3 frames for one thing, so we kind of condensed it, but they went through it well in the, right up in the obituary. Now therefore be resolved that the town board of the town of Southeast recognizes and commends Lois Seas Hotel's dedication, volunteerism, and service to this community, all the while fulfilling her responsibility to her loving daughters and their families. This then provides her deep sense of commitment and perseverance in life, her family and community, and be further resolved that a copy of the certificate shall be presented to the beloved Zutel family daughters, Catherine Ann, Karen Audrey, and Laura Jean. And with that, I'd like to close the meeting in their honor.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all for coming this evening.
Thank you.